So, you've probably seen this term blowing up online recently, the P algorithm. Now, it's not some official tech term. It's actually a name that users came up with after a Brazilian YouTuber named Felca exposed something deeply disturbing. He uncovered a social media feedback loop that can actually promote the sexualization of children. What he showed was pretty shocking. The moment a user interacts with this kind of content, and this is key, even if it's just out of pure shock or disgust, the algorithm just learns that preference, and then it starts recommending more of it. As you can imagine, this revelation started a firestorm online, and it really brings up a critical question that honestly affects all of us. So, how on earth does this happen? To really get it, to understand the risk, we have to look under the hood. We have to look at this invisible engine that's powering our digital lives, an engine that is always watching, always learning, and always deciding what you see next. And it really all comes down to two key pieces of tech that are working together: cookies and algorithms. I mean, they're the very foundation of the personalized web that we use every single day, for better, and as we're starting to see, definitely for worse. The core idea here is actually pretty simple. Think of cookies as a website's memory of your visit. The algorithm then acts kind of like a librarian who sees every single book you even glance at. And from that point forward, it only ever suggests more books that are exactly like it. It doesn't care if they're good for you or not. And that right there, that's the core of the problem. This supposedly helpful librarian doesn't have a moral compass. It has no ethical judgment, and it can accidentally lead children down some really dark paths and into two very serious traps, something experts call adultization and the creation of filter bubbles. So adultization, that's when kids are exposed to mature themes that they just aren't emotionally ready to handle. And then you have filter bubbles, which basically trap them in an echo chamber. You have to remember, the system is designed to give you more of what you engage with, even if you only engaged with it out of horrified curiosity. That quote just captures the danger perfectly, right? There's no off switch for the algorithm's memory. Now, the public reaction to these discoveries has been absolutely massive, but it's also deeply, deeply divided on how we're supposed to solve this problem. So, who's supposed to fix this? The whole debate is really splitting into two camps. In Brazil, for instance, the government's response to that whole expose was incredibly swift and decisive. They moved in to control the platforms directly. And I mean, it was an avalanche of legislative proposals. 32 new projects were filed, aiming to regulate everything from how content gets monetized to age verification. But while some governments are pushing for this kind of top-down control, a lot of parents, like many in Australia, are actually afraid these new rules could make things even worse. Okay, so here's the dilemma. In Brazil, the strategy is to force the platforms themselves to be more responsible. But over in Australia, where similar social media bans for teens are being talked about, parents are getting really worried. They're arguing that these kinds of bans would get rid of the supervised accounts they use to keep their kids safe, essentially forcing them onto the unfiltered, anonymous web. And right here, you can see this deep disconnect. Lawmakers are trying to protect kids by restricting access, but in doing so, they risk taking away the very tools that parents are relying on for that protection. It is a classic case of unintended consequences. Which, of course, brings us to the real heart of the matter. This incredibly complex new world involves everybody, and the lines of responsibility, they're blurring faster than anyone can draw them. This is not a simple problem, and there is no single, easy solution. First off, you've got the platforms that are building these incredibly powerful, ethically blind algorithms. Then you've got the governments trying to write laws for a landscape that literally changes by the day. Right on the front lines are the parents just trying to navigate it all. And finally, there are the users themselves, creating and consuming the very content that feeds this machine. Every single group holds a piece of this puzzle. And all of this leaves us with one last, pretty provocative question. As this technology embeds itself deeper and deeper into our children's lives, shaping their experiences, shaping their identities, who gets to write the rules? Is it the coders? The politicians? The parents? Or is this a responsibility that all of us now have to share?